You're listening to the best of ITW, brought to you by Pop Guide and WikiLeaf.
The new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
On this episode, ITW welcomes legendary hip-hop artist and cultural pioneer, Mellow Man Ace.
We are going to recap our experience with Mellow Man Ace.
Yes.
I didn't know much about Mellow Man Ace, admittedly.
Legend, icon.
I know a lot now, and it's remarkable.
Yeah, it was great getting to meet him. He's a Latin icon. He's like part of the fabric of California. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And he broke through with hits, and he's fucking rapping shit in Spanish, dude. No one was ever doing that.
He's a pioneer of that.
Yeah, and now it's just normal. Like what the fuck? Like, he was a part of true change.
Do you remember that happening? Like,
absolutely.
How was it received? But I know obviously it was by Spanish speaking people, but did everybody get on board?
It was huge because there was him, and then also another breakthrough artist was Gerardo. You remember the song Rico Suave?
Yeah.
He's the first Interscope artist. And he's fucking rapping in Spanish. You know what I mean? It was fucking groundbreaking. Rico. So, because you heard nothing. You saw nothing on TV. Mm-hmm. There was nothing. You know what I mean? There's nothing. Mm-hmm. But everywhere you look, there's a fucking Mexican. You know what I mean? So with those dudes kind of opened the fucking floodgates for everyone else to come through and be like, fuck yeah. And for dudes, without guys like Mello, there'd be, how would we all be killing it? It's kind of cool.
And do you remember what the group was? Because he was in a group with his brother. His brother
with Sen.
With Sen Dog, yeah. So, do you remember what that was called?
No, I know what it's called, but now it's going to bother me. But he was a part of that whole crew early on, man. Yeah. And he kind of led the way. I mean, it's fucking Sen Dog's brother. Yeah. What the fuck?
He was really, really vulnerable with how that kind of made him feel at a younger age when Sen Dog left, their thing, and he started getting bigger, and that was really cool too. It was nice to hear people just honestly talking about that kind of shit. And I don't know if that's the power of weed or what, but he just opened up and was just a sincere person, and it was really fucking cool to talk to him.
I think it's cool that he inspired like a generation of young people. He made music that everybody liked. Yeah. But he inspired a generation of Latino people to fucking be strong and fucking go for it. You know what I mean? It's pretty cool.
Did you notice when that started happening, that like a wave of
it changed, man. You know what I mean? Yeah, and especially with Mexican hip hop, there was a lot of it. You know what I mean? But just Latino rap in general, it really did hit. You know what I mean? And a lot of it may not have been mainstream or whatever, but it had a fucking massive audience, Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool, and you can really put a lot of that on him,
That's awesome.
Yeah, because in the States, he was just like on the fucking radio. Yeah. You're just like, holy shit, what? Yeah.
That's cool. And you're saying he put out something.
He's still putting stuff out. Like a few years ago, he had a song called Southgate that I liked a lot,
Yeah.
But
and that's where they all grew up. I think that's where, remember Sen was telling us?
Oh, yeah, Sen's from Southgate. The Southgate, Downey area. Yeah. We were just talking about Downey today. One time, I was on a podcast with Sen some years ago, and then we did that podcast with him, and then one night I was out, and I was in Downey, and we went to this bar. What's it called? Like Starland or Starlight or something like that. And we went there, and it was kind of a hood bar, but it was like a death metal night. We went to see some band. I walked in, Sen was at the bar by himself. And he's just sitting there drinking. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like, I'm not going to bother the guy. He's not going to remember me. And my friend was like, dude, you should say hi. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and we're walking by, and I was like, hey, what's up, Sen? I don't know if you remember me, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, yo, what up, E? I was like, holy shit, this dude's a real one. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, he really, he would remember any one of us, it was cool. And I was like, oh, shit. Because I told him, and then Into the Weeds podcast, it was cool. But that guy was. Those guys are real. Guys like him and Mello will go somewhere to just fucking see a local band and hang, and you know what I mean. They're just part of the fabric of our scene. It's cool, man.
Yeah, like
You know, our culture, like cultural icons, man.
Like Mello seemed definitely like humble and very, but he changed the culture.
Absolutely,
Wow.
he did. He changed hip hop culture.
Do you think he recognizes that? Like he must recognize it to a certain degree, but do you think he?
I think he recognizes it, and I think he knows, but he's got to know. But you know, being in that position is just bizarre. How do you process that?
Because it's such a huge thing now.
Yeah, and also like, I guess when some people think about stuff like that, they like he changed everything, but he hasn't reaped the benefits of what he created like some of the biggest artists out there today. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have Pitbull's money, you know, but I'm sure he has a lot of fucking money, more money than I've ever seen in my life. But it's interesting, you know, like Steve Soto from the Adolescents told me one time, because they won this like Legends fucking crazy award at this like music awards thing, and I was like, hey man, that's really cool you're doing that. And he texted me back, unfortunately, Ephraim, being a legend doesn't pay any bills.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like I think guys like him should be more recognized. I mean, he's huge and sold fucking shit tons of records and huge hits, but I don't know. I just think it should be bigger.
It's kind of because I think Sendog said he lives in South Dog. Yeah, definitely.
Southgate.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool. Like, and he also changed a lot, right, as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool that like when they change a culture, but like a man can change the culture, but the man doesn't necessarily change.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's pretty interesting that can happen.
It's fucking a trip, man. Yeah, Sen's still in his hood.
Yeah,
it's wild.
Well, it was great having Mellow Man on, and that was. Everybody should check him out if you don't know him. He unfortunately, like Spanish rap doesn't translate as much up to Canada as obviously it does down there. There's just not a lot of Spanish speaking people here. But that was a privilege. And if you don't know him and you are in Canada and you're listening to this, definitely check that guy out. It's the fucking
Mellow Man Ace is the shit.
It's the shit. It's awesome.
Shout out Mellow.
And it was a pleasure to have him on the show.
Yeah.
Pleasure. So check out Mellow Man Ace. You do your voice.
You do it. You do it.
Okay.
Best.
This is the IT. What is it? You're listening. You're listening to the ITW podcast, and this is the episode. I can't say it. What is it? You're listening to the best of ITW podcast. Mellow Man Ace.
Devil weed.
All right.
Mellow Man Ace.
Mellow Man Ace. Holy shit. Thanks so much for coming. And that's, you guys, thanks just so much for coming. It was kind of last minute. You guys hooked it up, and we really appreciate you making the trek out here, man.
Absolutely,
it means
man.
a lot to us.
It's all love, man. It's all in the name of music and,
Yes.
you know what I mean? And weed, you know?
Yeah.
So that's how we do it.
Yeah,
Shout out
absolutely.
Juan Vaca for making this happen.
Yeah, thank you
for
so much.
introducing us.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Shout out to my man Juan.
Juan.
He called me. Actually, he sent me a text. Yesterday I had a long day, but he sent me a text like an hour before I got home, right?
Okay.
And I got home, I said, I'm gonna pour me a glass of wine and I'm gonna chill. And as I'm writing him back, he called me, you know what I mean? He let me know about the show and the podcast and how you guys had my brother on before.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no doubt. I mean, when somebody that of a good person, a good brother brings you something like this, you're there.
Wow.
That's awesome, man. Shout out Juan Vaca.
Yeah, fuck, that's fucking cool.
Seriously, thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And likewise, man, any friend of Juan's, obviously. But so yeah, let's get into it.
So you were born. You were also like. So this is for those who don't know. Mellow Man is brothers of Sendog. Are you older? You're older brother, right?
I'm the younger brother.
You're the younger brother, but he was dancing for you. You got into hip hop first.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
They backed you
Well, see
up.
that the way that happened. I'll give you a little background.
Okay.
You know, we were all Cypress Hill, all of us, and then one day my dad woke up with a hair in his ass or something, and he kicked me out of the house because I couldn't hold a job. Right.
What?
So I had to move to the hood house where all the parties took place for us, and it was just chaos, and that's where I was living.
Is that the Hill House?
No, not
a different house.
No. That wasn't even on Cypress Hill. It was on the far extreme side of the city, and over there is where we used to go and just get fucked up. You know what I mean? And it was a cool house in a nice neighborhood, but the parents. First of all, there was a mother, a son who was our homeboy, and his sister. That's all who lived there. And so they just wanted anybody to come over and party and get off the street. Don't party in the street, party in the house.
Right.
That was his mom's philosophy, right?
Hey, yeah.
So I moved over there, and in that wanting to get back home and in good graces with my dad is why I jumped into I got to do something for myself mode. You know what I mean? I got to do something now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the opportunity, I went up with DJ Muggs to Delicious Vinyl for something that he was working on with 783.
Right.
And the guys there, Mike Ross and Matt Dyke, who's now resting in peace, better known as the Dust Brothers, presented me the opportunity to sign to Delicious Vinyl after they heard me. And me needing to get my shit together, according to my dad, is why I had to step away from the group and actually do something, And then once I got in with them, I tried to bring Sen and Muggs and B in, and Muggs was like, no, fuck no, they're gonna fuck him over. Let's not sign with them. I'm like, to this day, I'm friends with Delicious Vinyl. They never fucked me. And then, in fact, when Capitol Records came looking for me, they let me spread my wings and
That's
go
cool.
ahead and let them buy out my contract and whatnot. So
The first group you had, was that DVX?
DVX,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just went solo and just went by your
No.
name.
DVX was Cypress Hill. It is Cypress Hill. It was all of us, including members of, like, the only Mexican member in NWA, Crazy D. He was in the group as well.
Wow.
But we were already like changing we went from DVX to Hill Tribe.
Okay.
To Cypress Tribe, and then when Tribe Called Quest came out, we had to take the Tribe off.
Oh.
And so we went with Cypress Hills, because there's a city in Brooklyn called Cypress Hills, Brooklyn, New York, right?
Right.
So it made perfect sense since me and my brother lived on Cypress. We're the only original members who lived on Cypress Avenue.
That's crazy.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, and then I brought Be Real in, because he used to be in my breakdance crew.
Right.
Okay. And then I introduced B to Sen. Sen was a little older than us. So then there was another guy by the name of Tomahawk Funk, who then went on to start a group called Funk Dubious. Oh. Okay. He went to high school and junior high with us, so he was part of that group as well. And that's how that went down. But it was, I don't know, sometimes I like to think it was freakish and accidental, but studying guys' behavior now 30 plus years after, it kind of seems like maybe it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't. And maybe one guy was trying to get me out of the way, or you know what I mean? Present
really?
The hungry, starvy guy with a possibility. I don't know. You know what I mean? You never know what somebody's thinking, in the room. And one thing I've come to learn is, don't ever underestimate the power of the next man's thoughts,
Wow. That's heavy. That's huge.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again. Don't underestimate the power
of the next man's thoughts.
Oh, the next man's thoughts.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. So after that point, you went on to do your own thing.
Yeah, I had to get in good graces back with my family.
Yeah.
So
What had happened with your family? Do you mind talking about it?
Yeah. I said my dad kicked me out of the house.
Yeah, no, I knew that, but what led up to that?
I just didn't want to hold a job.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
I bounced around. I should say I just bounced around from job to job to job, and he got sick and tired of it. Whereas me, as the younger brother, he kind of forced me to become a man faster, if you will.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then again, I don't know, because Sendog always held a job to keep Pops off his ass, and whereas I was like, nah. Fuck this, I'm gonna make it somewhere. You know what I mean? I'm gonna make it, and I believe in myself so much that that's eventually what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
You manifested
So when I
destiny.
came back with my test presses, he let me back in the house.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, look,
That's
here's
a
my
douchey
record.
move, isn't it? Yeah. Like, I would never kick one of my kids out of the house. You know what I mean? Like,
You have kids?
I do. I have 3 kids.
Oh wow.
How old are they?
29, 23, and 19.
Right on.
So, but I would never do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but you know, he's old school, and old school parents were like that. You
Oh,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Not under my roof,
Different
you know, and all that
generation,
type of
man.
stuff. You know?
Yeah.
One of your kids makes music, right?
Yeah, my middle son, Kazal Organism is his
He's
name.
produced for you?
Yeah, he has.
That's
yeah.
cool. How's that working with your son?
Man, I'll tell you, I remember the first couple, when he first made his first beat that I thought I could rap on it, and we went to the studio, and just looking across the board was like, and seeing him, you know, being a little sponge, soaking up what the engineer was telling him and stuff like that. It was just, it was more than surreal, man. It was like, you know, like I would have never thought, if somebody would have told me this 20 years ago, I would have said, get the fuck out of here, man. You know what I mean? That's bullshit. Like,
That's incredible.
yeah, I would have never believed it, you know. So to make him part of the act now it's just been amazing because he's just learned so much.
So, and he DJs for you live?
Yeah.
Who was your DJ during that first solo record?
During the first album, it was Julio G.
Julio G. Dang, yeah, he's good.
Julio G. And that's only because Muggs had then gone on to work with 783, and they got a deal, I believe, at Geffen Records, right? And when Muggs left, another thing that happened was, you know, it helped me to see, like, I can't wait for another man's, you know, life to, you know what I mean? Like, if Muggs showed us, if he's leaving the 783, the show don't stop. What are the rest of you gonna do?
You gotta work.
You gotta work. You gotta do something. And so a little bit of it was part of that. You know what I mean? I had to do on, not just because Muggs left, but because Pops kicked me out. So,
Right.
yeah.
So Muggs was pretty instrumental in all, like a lot of you guys coming together and all that kind of stuff. It sounds like between you and Sen, but
No, to be honest with you, Muggs was the last piece we added because he wasn't from our hood.
oh, okay.
He's from the East Coast.
He's from the East Coast, and he lived in Bell Gardens at the time.
Right.
So it was the core MCs, really, Sendog, and I'll tell you everybody's original rap name.
Okay, great.
Okay, Sendog was Haji Sheik because he was a big Egyptian lover fan. And
Okay,
Egyptian
yeah.
had the Egypt and the
I
whole
remember
thing.
Egypt,
So his
Egypt,
name was
yeah.
MC Haji Sheik.
That's great.
All right, and then Tomahawk Funk, his name was Trouble T. Okay, and then there was Crazy D. That was always Crazy D. And then there was myself. I was MC Frosty. Okay, and then there was Be Real. When I first showed him how to rhyme, his name was Chili Chill.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, Chili Chill. And then he would change it to Be Chill, and then Real Chill, and then it landed on Be Real.
Wow.
Yeah.
And like Tomahawk and Be Real, like I can remember when I first like started hearing like all Soul Assassins records, you know, in the early '90s when they had very similar rap styles in the way, or like at the time when it was presented, they sounded very similar. Like there was like kind of, I don't know,
Like a similar flow.
a similar flow and stuff like that. So that kind of makes a lot of sense. Was that something that was kind of cognizant, or do you think that was just?
No, honestly, it wasn't, because to me, Tomahawk really had a style all his own. His thing was like, because he was half Indian and half black, his whole thing was about swinging tomahawks at you and stabbing you with like a sharp
Right.
object type of thing. And he had this on-beat, off-beat cadence that he would like to go off of. And then B was more, excuse me, B was more, he was more lyrical. He was more lyrical and linguistic about it. I think one of his favorite MCs at that time was like Rakim, you know, and at that time we'd write for each other, you know, like, oh, hey man, I wrote you this one, check it out, see if you like it.
That's
you know?
cool.
And then he wrote one for me called Talkapella on the first album.
Yeah.
And then I wrote Real Estate on their first album and stuff
Really?
like that, because that's how it was. There was a unity about it that we're
Like a
going to all
collective
help each
almost.
other up, you know. And if, you know, I write something for you that's a good idea, use it and rock with it. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So how long when Was it 89 when the first solo record came out?
No, actually, the first solo single came out in 87.
87.
When I signed with Delicious Vinyl, and we just had a single deal.
Because I'm thinking about that era of all the great records that came out at that time, and your record was boom, right up there with Paul's Boutique.
Thank you.
I mean, some of the most classic hip hop albums. You're part of that school of the most classics ever.
Thank you.
And I mean,
that record did a lot. That first album later in '89, which spawned the record Mentirosa, that really broke it wide open for Latinos in hip hop. That album was recorded between '88 and '89, right? And then the first single off that album was Mentirosa, and it just took off.
Blew up.
Where we created the bilingual Spanglish rap style, the Spanglish style. And I think once that happened, everything else happened for everybody else.
The doors open for everyone.
Yeah.
Because now, like we were just eating at the restaurant, and these guys are from Canada, and there's like, oh, whoa, the music's in Spanish. I'm like, yeah, it's always in Spanish here.
Yeah.
It just, you know what I mean? And because of you. Well, you know what I mean, dude?
Well, I mean, hip hop, like hip hop.
But you know what I mean? You helped us break that door open. I'm like, dude, this is just normal now. I love it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that would have been that's kind of would have been the catalyst to be like what all the whole psycho realm eventually turned into be like the Spanish influence over like rap. We don't even. Like we know of Psycho Realm at home, you know. I think the real hip hop heads do. I'm sure like follow it. But like until I was down here, in Venice with you guys, I was like, I didn't realize that there was a whole fucking other subgenre. And then it's such a cool culture that we don't get up in Canada enough of. You know what I mean? It's fucking kind of a bummer. Well, it's a huge bummer actually, because it's all fucking great. You know what I mean? I wish it was more integrated because it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Like
hip hop sounds great in Spanish, man.
It really, really does. I was at Spanibus in Spain. I don't know, a couple months ago, and it was all Spanish rap, and I was like, "This is fucking awesome!" Like, I don't even know what anybody's saying, but it just sounds so great.
Sure.
What was kind of the idea was it more of a cultural thing, or was it more of a sonic thing for you to try to start doing that?
Well, it was really more of a cultural thing because I had only heard one other MC do it, and that was on a record called "The Disco Dream" by a group called The Mean Machine in 1981. But it hadn't been done since then, since '87, when I picked up the torch of where he left off. He did a small piece of Spanish in an all-English record on Sugar Hill Records, all right? It was on Sugar Hill Records. And I remember listening to it for the first time, and I said, man, I want to be like that guy. So I knew that once I got on, I wanted to bust in Spanish.
That's cool.
Plus, that's kind of how I built my buzz in the city, was rapping and battling dudes in Spanish in 1980. From 85 to 86 in there.
Really?
84, 85, 86. And then I met Delicious Vinyl in 87. Wow. So we were battling dudes. Me and my brother were the only ones that rapped in Spanish at that time. So we wanted to make sure that was part of what we gave the public once we actually started making records.
Right. And at the time, what you're doing was really new. I've noticed with different groups in music over time, oftentimes they don't know who to put you on tour with.
Yeah.
Or where they want to categorize you, but they can't. Was that an issue for you at all?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. The first genre or sector of music that took to what I was doing specifically, I'll talk about myself a little bit, was freestyle music.
Oh, yeah.
The guys from New York and that
freestyle
were doing freestyle
high
music, high energy stuff. Yeah. They accepted me before the hip hop culture did.
Really?
Yeah, and that's probably just the way it happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
They gravitated to the music first,
Absolutely.
because it had Spanish, and most of those groups are Spanish or Latino
Latin people. Yeah.
And then would come, the hip hop culture and all those guys. Because remember, the first single on the album was not Mentirosa. I'm sorry. It was called Rhyme Fighter.
Okay.
Rhyme Fighter. And that kind of set the mood for like where B would get the style for his voice sounding like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
And
That's crazy.
When you think about it like that, then you see the impact that, we were making.
That's incredible. And so after you did that, you witnessed the whole wave. I mean,
I've seen everybody come
everything
up.
Changed. Like everything changed after that.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm sure there's guys rapping in Spanish and English that have don't even know why they're rapping in Spanish and English. You know,
a lot of them don't, and it's like whatever to me now. But realistically, it's sad when you don't know the root of what you're doing,
right?
And waking up and taking full advantage of something that I had to create that didn't exist at the time. Right. Mm-hmm. And then when you meet me, you don't give it up. You don't.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I'm not asking for a check. You know what I mean? Just, motherfucker, give me some props.
Be cool.
You know what I mean? You're using my style, and I'm not checking you for it.
Exactly.
Because when I came up, that was against hip hop law.
Oh yeah. Everybody wasn't trying to sound like everybody.
No, and you couldn't bite. To bite somebody's style,
terrible. Yeah.
You get dealt with back then. You know, you get called whack and kicked out of the club, and that's the era I came up in.
Music from way back to now, that's where it's different. Now you find a million groups or musicians or rappers or whoever that are like, I'm trying to be like this guy. I'm trying to sound like that. I want to sound like this band. Whereas back in the day,
and that's okay.
Right.
As long as you add on to what that person did.
Make it yours.
You see what I'm saying? Like when I heard Mr. Schick of the Mean Machine, he did that one little piece. But when I came into it, I said, I'm going to do it bilingual or Spanglish and create some. I added on to the style.
Made your own.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's okay to learn from somebody. Hell, we all learn from somebody. Yeah. But you have to twist it up, lace it down with your own shit.
Right.
What did you do to make it different? Or are you just using the same formula that worked for this man?
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you know how record companies are.
Oh, they'll snag
the minute
up the
something
next one.
sounds off, they want to duplicate it, replicate it, regurgitate it.
Yep.
You know? And that's kind of what happened.
So when you were saying like you got embraced by the freestyle, the high energy crowd, some of the New York scene. So did you end up on some dance tours rather than just straight up hip hop tours?
Absolutely.
And it went well.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah. Cross country, all that stuff. And
who were you touring with?
I mean, the biggest name in freestyle, I remember Stevie B.
Yeah.
Stevie B he put us on his tour, me and Kid Frost, first before any of the rappers.
No way.
And at that time, I remember it specifically, and I'll speak again about myself. We were being ambassadors for hip hop in countries that, and I don't want to say they were racist, Latin countries that I would visit for the first time, never heard rap music, never gave it a chance. And they would ask me right on camera on the TV show, why are you doing this black music? And I'm like, black music? And I'd have to educate them and let them know that hip hop started in the South Bronx with blacks and Latinos and white guys and everybody who was there.
Yeah.
And so when we started to present it to them in their language is when they finally accepted it. So we were really breaking a lot of ground.
That's incredible.
Globally.
They just didn't know any better. They just had no
idea.
Exposure to it at all.
No.
Wow. No. That must have felt incredible to be there at the cusp of something completely brand new to someone, you know?
Yeah. Did you face much resistance from it, other than just the press asking weird questions? Was it embraced?
You know what? The early years between 1985, senior year of high school, 86, 87, right before I met Delicious Vinyl, we got shut down. The door was shut a lot. And there were some shady guys, old timers who had already been in the business and they wanted to sign all of us as a collective. And I remember somebody by the name of Humphreys. I forget his first name. He used to be he was on an old label from back in the day, and he was an old soul singer and blah, blah, blah. He wanted to sign us. And as a unit, we said, no. You know, Muggs was like, definitely no. Then we shopped.
Isn't that how labels used to fuck over all the old Motown crews?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then we went to Dick Griffey over at, what was the name of that label? He had down off of, I forget the name of the label. Yeah, you know, Dick Griffey would just sick his goons on you right from the gate. You pulled up and who the fuck? What? You want to shop? What? Get the fuck out of here. And you had these big brothers, you know, big black dudes just at the gate, like, no. And we heard a few no's first, you know. But it's like when you believe in yourself so much, you know that the right opportunity is going to come anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there was, at that time, it was such a melting pot. This was before a lot of us got deals. And I'm talking about Ice-T. I'm talking about, NWA might have been the only group that had a deal at that time over at Ruthless with
Ice-T's
Jerry.
record came out the same year as yours, right?
Yeah, but he had little indie records before that.
Oh, that's
little
right.
indie
Yeah.
records. And then, so we'd all hang out down here on Sunset at a club called Water the Bush. Water the Bush was thrown by those dudes from the Zulu Nation who'd come from New York, Africa Bambaataa and them dudes, Africa Islam and all them dudes. Fable from Rocksteady Crew. They'd rent a club, and then all of hip hop people that were trying to get in the game would go there on Tuesday nights. So in there you would see people like Fishbone, people like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Cypress Hill before they were on, myself. You'd see people like Everlast before he got his record deal. And Ice-T would be all in there. And then you'd see actors even like Denzel Washington early on in his career, you know what I mean? People like Christian Hosoi would hang out there and stuff like that, you know what I mean? So, and that one by one, the record companies would go to that place and fish us out and give us record deals. And then the scene started to get smaller and smaller and smaller because now the rest of us were going on tours and going abroad and doing things. So the scene started to shrink, and that's what happened. They basically gave us all record deals.
Wow.
Yeah. It's phenomenal when you really think about it.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
They blew everyone up, and then everybody at home's like, man, I miss that club.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Pretty much.
I miss those hangs.
When you first got overseas, what you're saying is when, and then you said they were asking you like the black music questions and stuff like that. Was it embraced there, or like at the shows, or did you find resistance from it? Did the people enjoy it there?
Look, as long as if it was in their language, they were down for it.
Cool.
However, they just wanted to know why I was doing this black music. I'm like, have you seen my skin color?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'd have to explain it and how I learned the story at that time. This is way before social media or any of that stuff. The way we got our knowledge back then was we'd have to cut out newspaper clippings of when somebody landed on the LA Times or if somebody was on the David Letterman show late that night, like Funky 4 + 1 More or something like that. Or when I remember a time that Crazy Legs and Ken Swift appeared on the David Letterman show breakdancing. So that's how we got our knowledge. Wow. You know what I mean? And we had to piece what hip hop was mentally based on a story to story, clipping to clipping basis. See, so now I'm going overseas in the 90s, in 1990, having to explain to them what I've learned. It started in the Bronx, blacks and Puerto Ricans, right? And then the West Coast gravitated to it because we started booking some of their bands in L.A.
Right.
Run DMC, Houdini, LL Cool J, Salt and Pepper, and so on. I'd have to let them know. And then they finally got it. And at first it came off a little racist. Like when you first hear that for the first time, like,
sure.
Why are you doing black music?
What?
And you're like, whoa.
Yeah, chill out.
So take it to about a 5. Tone it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that, I mean, at the same time, it's something that had to happen. And that explanation needed to happen for hip hop.
Wow, that's incredible.
Incredible. You were born in Cuba as well. Like were you born in Cuba as well?
Yeah.
And
That's my brother. Yeah. Matter of fact, we're not in the States unless if I don't win the Cuban lottery. There would have never been no Cypress Hill or anything.
What? Explain this I'm not familiar with the Cuban lottery. I'm sorry.
Well, the Cuban lottery was something that was offered by the Cuban government to the people who had different ideals than the Castro administration, right? And in the 60s, they had this thing called the Flights of Liberty. You can look it up. It's Googleable. And the Flights of Liberty, parents were allowed to leave the country if they had children. However, stipulation was one of those children had to hit the lottery number base. Like it was like on a lottery principle, right? So when my older sister was born, her lottery number didn't come up. My brother Sendog was born, his number didn't come up. Now I'm born third, my number hits. Wow. and that's the only way we got off the island. Now, this is way before the 1980 boat lift, of the Madiel boat lift that everybody knows that Scarface came over on or whatever. We're talking about 1967 when I was born. They didn't let us leave till 71, however, because what they were trying to do through those 4 years was break my father's will to come here, and they stripped him of his teaching degrees that he had in Cuba, English, math, and physical ed, and they put him to work in the sugarcane fields and in the sewers. And they said, why would you want to go to America? These are the kind of jobs you're going to get, right? But my father didn't believe it because he already had a buddy who had come to the United States and got a job at Delta Airlines, and he set my dad up with a job already when he got here. So he would write my dad letters and let him know, like, don't believe what they're trying to tell you, that I already have, I put in a good, word for you at the job here at Delta Airlines. Next thing you know, we get to the States, 1971. My dad starts working right away at Delta Airlines and keeps that job for 33 years.
Oh, wow. That's remarkable. That's what they try to do.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I mean, it's not, but it is.
But,
It's you hear about it.
ruthless.
Yeah, no, that's
Ruthless.
the Cuban lottery system.
Why would they offer? And that's maybe we don't have the answers to this, but why would they offer the lottery system if they were just going to try to make the person stay in the first place?
You know what? That's a great question. I don't know, but there was a lot of people that had different philosophies than the Castro administration, and enough to the point where they had to create this, And then you think about what happened in 1980 with the Madiel boat lift, and that was basically Fidel Castro giving you the murderers, the rapists, the thugs, the crooks, the thieves, the killers. You know what I mean? That was what that was all about, to rid the island of those kind of people.
Wow.
So,
Is there any herb on the island?
huh?
Was there any herb on the island at all?
No, and as a matter of fact, even to this day, if you're caught smoking weed in Cuba, you'll go to prison.
Yeah, it's bad news.
It's like
there.
Japan.
Yeah,
Probably worse.
Maybe. Yeah, it's there's no
Really that bad, huh?
no weed in Cuba.
Where did you discover it?
Where did you discover weed?
Same as
Southgate, California.
same as your brother. Yeah.
Good old Southgate, California, South
That's
Central
awesome.
LA.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And do you remember what the first time was introduced to you?
Yeah, well, see, Sendog had already been smoking when I want to say by the time he was 12 years old, because I noticed there was a change in my brother ever since he started getting high, because I'm the little brother. So there was a time where we would play baseball together in teams, baseball teams a lot. And one year he just stopped playing, and I knew something was wrong. And he was becoming way more rebellious, you know what I mean? So one day I realized it. I caught him smoking some weed. And I wanted my big brother, you know what I mean? So I wanted to be near him. And so I remember at 14 is when he smoked me out my first joint. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, now I can hang out with my big bro again and his friends and do all that. But so I would, that's when it happened. Yeah.
Did you like it from the first time?
I don't remember, man, to be honest with you. I just know that I kept on doing it. So I must have liked it, yeah.
That's amazing.
How did you guys get into breakdancing and shit like that? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I mean, that was a lot of we were baseball players, and our dad was grooming us to be baseball players, right? So because the C average thing came in at that time, you had to have a C average in school and keep your grades above a C average, right? And we were both fresh off the boat from Cuba. We had to learn English. So we were always late in learning.
Right.
So we were getting frustrated because the C average thing kept us off the field. We couldn't play. So luckily for us, hip hop was blooming at that time. And lo and behold, here comes pop locking and break dancing. And this is really fucking cool. Let's jump into that. You know? Next thing you know, we see movies like Crush Groove, Wild Style. These movies came out and showed us that we could actually take this thing to a bigger place than just a street corner. So it kind of all just dominoed effect for us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it all happened at the right
It's a
time.
wave of creativity.
Yeah, Yeah.
It's really cool.
And so your kids, well, one of your kids is old enough to tour with you. Are all your kids, are they full grown by now? Are they?
My youngest has just turned 19.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
How did you approach cannabis with them? Like, did you just, like, they know dad obviously smokes, so they know Cypress Hill? Like, what was it? Was it a bit more conservative approach?
I honestly, my oldest son, he's on all types of shit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have those conversations with him. He just was out there experimenting. My second son, I thought it'd be good for business for him to start smoking because as a producer, you know, you can vibe with the artist that you're producing and working for. So I introduced it to him like that. And I got high with him first, you know what I mean? And then with my daughter, I still haven't had that conversation. I don't think she smokes yet, but I could be wrong.
And you never know. She might go a different direction, huh? Kids, kids are just, you can't predict it.
Yeah, you know, but I think they all know that they could come to me. You know, I'm not that suit and tie dad that's gonna, be all.
They can ask
stuffy
you
and
questions
shit.
and talk to you. You'd rather have them talk to you anyways than go learn it somewhere else. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool, man. It's great you can be open with your kids.
absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about, really. I mean, I didn't have that with my parents. You know what I mean? They were both super Christian and. You know, we had to go to church every fucking Sunday. And, Jesus, Bob, church, the Bible. And it's like, when I became a parent, I said to myself, I don't want to be like that.
Right.
I don't want to wholly roll my kids into the fucking, you know what I mean? Into it. And so I'm not that parent.
Right.
I'm not that dude on purpose. You know what I mean? Because it became too much.
And when your kids were younger, was that hard for you to deal with?
No.
Because you had to go on the road and you had to...
No, I mean, they knew what the hell we did, you know.
Right.
And it was as long as everybody has electricity at home and
It's
and
all
the heater
good,
works in the winter
yeah.
and the fan works in the summer, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Nobody gives a shit.
Everything's
They got
good.
two of everything.
It's great.
You know, so,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So that they're all right. They're doing
Yeah.
Where do you live now? Like, you still the same area?
No, well, not too far from there. I mean, I've lived everywhere. I've been all around the world. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I remember when I first made it, I lived an hour east of LA where we grew up in Southgate.
Okay.
And then I was like, man, going back home to visit my mom is like a bitch. It takes too long. So then I moved back, and then so I've been all around the city, and now I live probably about 20 minutes from her on the same freeway path on a 710 freeway.
Easy, huh?
So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Perfect.
You know, I've been in the valley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't moved out of state yet or anything like that.
Right.
Valley's too hot, man. Come on. I love it hot.
I had some good times in the valley, man. Everybody at that time was living out there. It's like you'd run into rappers at the grocery stores.
Right. There used to be a scene out there.
Yeah. I mean, I ran into Corrupt, WC, and Everlast. Be Real. All of us kind of gravitated to the valley for a while.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Random.
Yeah.
Do you still smoke weed all the time?
Not as much.
No?
Not as much. I'm more of a wine drinker now, It's because I had heart surgery, so my doctor's
did?
like, hey, dude, it's time to chill.
Wow.
Yeah.
Glass of wine's good for you, though.
Yeah, a little nice red wine. So that's
If you
where I'm
wanted
at.
to consume cannabis, you'd probably have to eat it or something.
Well, I use CBDs and all that kind of
Okay,
stuff.
And you find the CBD helps you?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you use it for your heart, or you use it for just everything?
Well, I use the internal one, the liquid, and then I use the creams and a lot of those products on a daily basis. Yeah.
How often are you still touring?
Well, I'm on tour right now, and I think, I've never really stopped doing shows, not so much tours. For us, from back in the old school, a tour was 30 dates or more in a row.
Right.
Okay, that's what a tour was. Now a tour is spaced out a show here a month, one over there.
Right.
Now they change what the
Yeah,
whole
it's like a description for when the band is actively touring or promoting an album now. We're on tour for the next year, but really, you're on the road for 7 weeks.
Yeah,
Okay, I got
exactly.
you. Yeah.
So I never stopped doing that, And now, as of right now, currently, I'm on the Dub Magazine tour, and our next stop will be, I believe it's Corona, California. Then we do Albuquerque, New Mexico after that.
Albuquerque, the dub scene's huge out there. The car
Big
scene,
time. Yeah.
huge there. The car show scene's dope, man. Like a lot. I don't know if
We have a lot of
Canada,
we have car shows, but I don't think it's everything down here is this.
the car culture here is different. It's so intertwined with the music,
Right.
And yeah, and as you know, because you've played a lot of them, going to the car show is like going to a music festival.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Really? Is it,
Huge
is
audiences.
it classic cars, new cars, all what is it?
Yeah,
Both?
well, a lot of lowriders, classic
Lowriders,
cars,
Yeah, both.
and modern cars.
Absolutely, yeah.
So especially at the dub show, you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's some that are just devoted to just Lolos, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have the ones that are a mixture of both. You have your street racers, or you have Lolos or something like that. And within the Lolos, you know, you can get trucks. You can get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of different from from even old bombs. You know, the gangster Al Capone cars.
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, cool.
all that kind of stuff. So
I love it.
That's awesome. They send in a lot of features and shit like that.
what's that?
They send in like they send in features. Do they order these features? Like they got like the old Al Capone car. Like we got to get the dude with the Al Capone car. Like is there feature cars there, or does everybody just kind of gravitate to it?
Some
think
feature
when-
cars
when-
sometimes.
Sorry, this is way
much
off
when-
base. I'm just interested in it.
when a company says we're doing this car show, they kind of have a representative in a lot of different cars clubs that they can tap into and say, hey, we're doing this show. Get your registrations in. They cost $125.
That's fucking
for
cool.
instance, right?
Right.
And then within that, you'll get different car clubs from East LA, Whittier, Compton, and all this, and they'll bring their specific whatever they do. So if in Compton they got guys that have nothing but 64 Impalas, that they'll bring 12 of those. And then in East LA is where you usually find a lot of the bombs, you know, the Al Capone cars, the 39s, your 40s, your 41s, and they'll bring them in a clique of, you know, whatever, 10, 15 guys will come like that.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I mean?
fucking cool.
So that's how that goes down.
It's awesome.
That is fucking awesome.
Car culture's pretty cool.
It's super
very,
cool.
very West Coast.
Yeah, I mean,
Thing, man.
yeah, it's it does exist where we are, but it's not. It's like there's not like that guy sounds like he's a fucking car show curator, and that's what he does, and he just has all these hookups, and he fucking brings it all in.
Exactly.
That's fucking neat, man. That's cool.
Because
That's awesome.
car culture is kind of limited on the East Coast because just the
weather.
The weather, right.
Yeah, the
Ruin
weather,
your car.
I mean, it
You
could
have to-
really rust out the bottom of a car.
And also in hip hop, I perceive this, maybe not nowadays, but back in the day, I felt like people in hip hop were more about cars here and more about jewelry on the East Coast.
Facts.
Like, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, now that you
way
say
more
it,
of
for
that.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
too. The other thing too, in the East Coast, you didn't need a car because you had subway trains.
Exactly.
So those guys have saved a lot of money compared to those guys on the West Coast. You know what I
For
mean?
real.
Yeah, because you could ride. We didn't have subway trains in the '80s and '90s
Right.
even. You know what I mean? They didn't reopen till what, early 2000?
Yeah. And they barely go anywhere.
Reopen. So those were just laying there dormant for some
There
time.
was
They
a
were dormant for a long time.
LA had a subway originally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And cable cars.
Yes. The
With
original
trolleys,
station
yeah.
for those is the Epitaph Records building.
There you
Really?
go.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I knew that there was. I knew that I'm fucking getting schooled this fucking week.
Welcome to California.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome, man. It's a fucking great way to. Wow. Were you guys smoking weed all the fucking time growing up, like just constantly?
By the time I smoked my first joint, it never ended that for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And so Sen was already smoking because he kind of got rebellious towards Pops, so he was already hanging out with a different crowd, and I was like,
Right.
who the fuck is these dudes? You know what I mean? And he doesn't know it, but to this day, there's certain dudes from back then that I don't like that kind of feel like they took my brother from me. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
Really?
Well, yeah, you know, as a little brother, you always looking
Dang.
for, hey, that's my big brother. What
Right.
the fuck? You know, I want to be around that. You know, I want to be with him.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? But I think once we started smoking weed, and I was able to get close to him again because now we can identify with what the fuck's
Connect,
going on.
Yeah.
You know, it just never stopped from there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I might have gone a year here and a year there, you know, when my mom was just Bible thumping the shit out of me, like, go back to church and blah, 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 Jesus. You know what I mean? And then, you know what I mean?
That's so funny.
Is your mom still with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's Pops and my dad too. So.
Oh, really? Yeah. So
If she's listening, you better get to church.
yeah.
I ain't coming, Mom.
And as everybody's I'm sure good now, and everybody's tight and stuff like that now. And I know she doesn't smoke weed because I remember we talked to Sen about this. Because Sen said he hides out back with his kids and smokes weed.
Right.
Yeah.
Hides from your mom. But are you close with your parents and everything's cool now?
I like to think so. I mean, I'm no mama's boy either.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I've never been that dude. And Pops was a disciplinarian. He'd hit you with like some old back mountain military Cuban type spankings and shit like that. And his punishments were very, here it'd be child abuse for sure.
School.
You know what I mean? But I like to think like I'm good. We're close in the sense of if I need them to hear some shit I'm going through, of course. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And shit like that. And that's your parents. You only get two of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so yeah, I like to believe so.
That's great. And then your sisters. So there's 3 kids in your family?
4.
4 kids. Are you the youngest?
My sister is my younger sister.
Oh, so you're the middle. You're the
one
middle
who
child.
plays in the Mentirosa video.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
you're the middle child, and so
I'm the forgotten child.
yeah, I was too.
Yeah. I'm the one they left in the church bus once.
Really?
Shit parked back at the church, and I'm asleep on the floor, and they had to come back and get. Yeah, I'm that guy.
I'm the one. There's no pictures of. They got bored. They got bored by the time.
There isn't any pictures of me in Cuba, man. That's fucked up. Yeah, Sendog got pictures. My older sister Myra got pictures, but there's no pictures miraculously of me.
Yeah, the middle kid. Because by the time they get to number 3, the parents are tired.
It's like
man.
you're not the oldest, the newborn, and you're not the first daughter, and you're not the first son. You're just like the second of this bunch of eaters,
Yeah. The next podcast I get to do is be called Middle Child, and we're going to exercise all these fucking demons.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
But you guys must do your sisters have kids as well?
No, they don't. Actually.
Oh, no?
They don't. Sen and I are the only ones that got kids.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really. Still a pretty big family, though.
No, actually, I mean, you got to remember, we came to this country,
Right.
it was 6 people.
Yeah.
6 people.
Yeah.
It's
So
a
now it's
small
12.
unit of. I never knew my grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins. You know what I mean? So it was us 6, and if we didn't figure that shit out, it didn't get solved. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Wow.
But now I have 3 kids, and Sen has 3 kids. I think now 4 maybe.
Family's growing.
And so that's the extent of it, though. We are the uncles, we are the fathers, we are the brothers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
We are the grandparents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because all of those people were, didn't want to leave Cuba. Our family members.
Right.
See, when I won the lottery, the whole family could have came.
Really?
Grandparents, aunts, uncles, and they were like, we don't want to. We've been here in Cuba all our lives. We don't want to start a new life somewhere else, type of shit, and have to learn a whole new language. That was their philosophy.
They're already older.
They were older, but they're still there. My 2 aunts on my father's side, my uncle Ulpiano, he's out there, and all their kids are all musicians, and
Really?
that's the family business.
You can see them now.
Well, yeah, I can see them on Messenger
That's right.
now. They got cell phones, and
There was a lot of years you couldn't see them.
there was a
right?
lot of years we couldn't.
Your whole life.
So you reconnected with your family back there since?
Well, through Messenger,
Yeah.
I have been
great.
able to connect with cousins, aunts,
Wow.
uncles,
They must be just blown away with what you guys have done with your lives. With your
Oh
life.
yeah, especially now since Sendog got the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and all that. I mean, they were always really proud of just the fact that we became the first ones to do Spanish rap here.
Yeah.
and all that. That's a big deal for our family
huge.
members in Cuba.
And have you ever, I guess you've probably never been back to play. I know it's really hard to get over there. But
I haven't been back. Period.
Yeah.
I have never been back. No.
Oh, because you guys can't, because the states can't travel back and forth. Would you
Yeah,
have been
well,
allowed to
now-
travel back and forth with the lottery?
Yeah. My father's gone back. My mother just really put a lot of fear into the rest of us to not go back, and her philosophy was always that you shouldn't need permission to go home.
Yeah, you're
You know
right.
what I mean? You shouldn't need permission to go home.
You're absolutely
And having to deal with the Cuban government at that time when she was a president of an anti-Fidel Castro movement group here.
Oh, wow.
Our names might have been on a watch list of some sort,
Wow.
that type of
Revolutionary, huh?
thing. Yeah.
Wow.
So that your parents like clearly like really resented.
My mother more than my father. Like I said, my father returned back in 1979 before his father died, and he was able to spend some time with him. But it wasn't until recent that one of us, the siblings, went back. My younger sister and her husband went to Cuba. I want to say it was early last year or the year before that, and they were able to visit family and take pictures and do all this stuff. Visit my grandfather's house where we were all born at and all that stuff.
That's incredible.
I'm gonna shift back over to weed for a bit. Okay. Just because it is a weed podcast, we could talk about I'm fascinated by all that. When you guys were smoking, like what was the weed like when you guys first got it? It was just, what was the weed like? 'Cause it's hard to imagine your guys' crew not smoking excellent cannabis, but there must have been a time when it was sparse.
You got what you got.
I remember the first joint, like for instance, that I smoked Be Real out, because Be Real was really devoted to pop locking and stuff like that. So when I brought him over to the hood, I turned him on to this shit called Chocolate Thai at the time, and that was a real potent, good weed at that time to have. You know what I mean? Now, of course, there was times where we had no money and we had a little bullshit bush in the backyard we had to trim from and do some backyard boogie shit. But for the most part, we'd go into the South Central, and I'm not trying to throw nobody under the bus, but the Jamaicans in South Central, 42nd Street, had the bomb ass indica stuff. You know what I mean? And their shit was, you had a 20 bag, it looked like a 40 bag. And it was bomb. That shit'll get you fucked up. 5-6 heads. You know what I mean?
That's great.
So what we would do is we all save our lunch money and not eat lunch during the week at school. And all the homies, we put our money together on the weekends, Friday and Saturday. And then the one guy would borrow the car from his mom, go run the mission go see the Jamaicans, come back, and we'd have an abundance of fucking indica.
That's
to smoke.
amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what were those sessions like?
And then you had skunk weed. Skunk was bomb too.
What was skunk? Just it's skunkier kind of weed.
It's skunkier, stickier. Stickier shit. I remember you look at it, it just glisten in the sun. You know what I mean?
So you guys were growing weed in your backyards, like even back then.
We accidentally grew a big ass tree one year because in my mom and dad's house, they had a room in the backyard behind the garage. It was a room that when they were gone, we'd go sit there and have sessions. So like when you watch the 70s show, right? Yeah. And we'd sit in a circle in a cipher and everybody would get high, right? But what we would do, we'd get the seeds and throw them right out the window. So what we didn't know, it was growing a fucking weed. Next thing you know, our homeboy Kurt comes from across the street and he's like walking by, he's like, dude, when you guys start growing this shit? I'm like, what? Because at the time, I didn't know what the fuck it looked like that, you know what I mean? In a big-ass tree form. And he's like, dude, look at it. It was up to the roof. What? It was up to the top of the roof of the garage room. And he cut it up for us, dried it out, cured it, did all that, brought it back to us in a shoebox, and we were just smoke.
You guys must have been so happy.
Oh, man. You don't even know. You don't even know. Yeah. It was accidental. It was freakish how we grew the first tree.
So did you keep growing it because of that?
No, we didn't. Wow. We didn't. We didn't know how. It's like
it just happened.
It happened that one time because we were all just throwing the seeds out there.
What was the guy that found it? Lucas?
Kurt.
Kurt. Yeah. I wonder how much Kurt actually took. I wonder how much your fucking tree we got.
Tree came back in a shoebox.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So wait, where's the rest of this shit at? You know?
But you loved it though.
Yeah, and everybody was telling, hey man, fucking Kurt. I think he stole a whole bunch of stems, you know what I mean? How the fuck do we just got a shoebox, you know what I mean? Big ass tree with 3 stems and shit.
And he's probably home smoking. They didn't even know they had this tree anyways, man.
Yeah. He was that kind of motherfucker too.
Right.
He was.
That's great.
Yeah.
Shout out, Kurt.
Yeah, shout out to Kurt.
Shout out to Kurt. Yeah.
And noticing the weed tree. And that's a fucking, it's pretty remarkable that like weed's not easy to grow, that it just grew by itself.
Yeah, it did.
grows
I
like
mean,
weeds.
we smoked so much and we brought so much of that stuff from the Jamaicans that every seed that we pulled out, you know, you're not going to leave it in the joint. You don't want to
No
smoke the
way.
seed.
No pops.
So there was a window here and there was a window here. We had the cipher was always like this, right? We had
Right.
chairs, the window's here. So whoever's rolling the weed is breaking it up, separating the seeds and the stems, and we just go right out the window, right there. And there was a patch. There was a patch about the size of that right there.
Yeah.
That stereo,
Yeah.
whatever that is. And in there, it was all dirt, and that's where the tree ended up growing up out of.
So it was actually like just a
incredible.
perfectly little potted
Sendog
plant.
didn't tell you this story?
No.
Sendog didn't tell us the
Yeah,
story.
he
fucking
should
blew
have
it.
told you.
He fucking blew
yeah,
it.
story. Yeah.
Fucking guy.
That's amazing. He's still mad at Kurt.
He really is. He really is. They don't fuck with each other right now.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But thank God the fucking cops didn't find that. Like no
Back
way,
then?
no way a
dude,
cop's
yeah,
gonna be
you
like, hey,
fuck.
we accidentally grew a tree of weed.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that
Kids,
was
you know?
before they were doing the infrared searches and all that type of stuff. So
Right.
we're talking about 1984, 85 in there.
Wow.
Yeah, we were still like, some of us were still in school
Yeah.
That's
when that
crazy.
happened. Yeah.
So we got to the point
Yeah.
where when Mentirosa hit, it
Yeah.
was huge, and you did Arsenio Hall, you did all the big shows.
Yeah.
And you were talking about that Stevie B tour. What were I just want to know because I nerd out on all this stuff. What were some of the most remarkable tours or shows you did and in that time, and what did that lead to from them after that? You know, different ventures and things you did.
I'd have to say, and I say this often when I'm asked this question, I think touring Colombia with Air Supply was spectacular. And we're talking about soccer stadiums of 100,000 seaters in Colombia, Bogota, Medellin, Cali, Colombia. That tour was insane. Here's why. One is when I got off the airplane, there was over 150 to 200 journalists waiting for us on the tarmac. Okay? They didn't even let us get into the airport before they hitting us with a barrage of fucking questions. The next day, and they kept us there on the tarmac for about an hour, hour and a half, until everybody got their fucking story. Next day, we wake up in the hotel room, there's a pile of newspapers of everything that we said the night before when we touched down, right? And you had them all. So to this day, I have all those paper clippings cut out in folders and, you know, and photo albums that I keep in my archives and all that stuff. Second part of that tour was, as we're entering the stadium, the Coliseum of Bogota, Colombia, we hear a huge explosion, okay? And we're in a minivan thing that the promoter's bringing us through. Stadium's packed out. You can hear it from as we're coming in. This is during the Pablo Escobar years. So you hear a huge explosion. And, you know, we're from L.A. We've heard some gunshots and shit like that, but we haven't heard boom. You know what I mean? They shovel us into the stadium, get us to the backstage area, and at this time, Julio G was my DJ.
Yeah.
My two sisters were dancing, so we figured, hey, man, you know, we came all this way, we gave it a good run. It's fucked up. They're going to cancel this fucking show.
Yeah.
Promoter walks in. You guys got 6 minutes before you get on stage. And we're like, wait a minute, we heard an explosion. Goes, yeah, they just blew up an army truck. Happens here all the time.
What? You're just like, what?
Exactly.
Holy fuck.
We go on stage, 80,000 people
Not sweating the fucking army truck that just got blown
going
up.
off.
Waiting to hear Mellow Man Ace and Air Supply.
They're probably like, hey,
Holy
this is our
fuck.
reality. This is our escape.
Remember,
I'm gonna party.
it was during the
Right.
Escobar years, so that kind of shit where his goons and his, you know, henchmen were killing motherfuckers, you know what I mean? And if they didn't own the politician, I'm sure they were gonna blow his fucking car up and do all that type of shit, and that happened. Yeah.
With Air Supply.
Air Supply.
Did you?
How did that
Did
tour
you
go?
get contact with them? Did you meet them?
Yeah, we were on the same tour
So they
for
were
4
just-
states.
Oh, and they hung out. They were cool.
Yeah, at that time, we're talking about 1991. Wow. You know what I mean? Huge. To this day, that tour is considered the biggest gross tour of Colombian history. Bogota,
Really?
absolutely.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so they
And
were
just the two bands on the bill? Like you guys in
Just
them?
myself and Air Supply.
and you were introducing the sound.
I was
to everyone out
opening.
there.
No, I was headlining. No, just kidding. No, I was opening for them. Yeah,
And once again, you were being an ambassador for the genre over there.
absolutely.
They hadn't heard it
Yes.
yet either.
They had never heard rap in Spanish. Or bilingual. No,
That's incredible.
Did they just go fucking off?
they went the fuck off.
Nice.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, you can see guys like kids head spinning and shit.
Yeah.
Because breakdance was big still at that time there.
So finally someone's coming here and playing
Yeah.
our music. Wow.
Yeah. And to them, it was a new phenomenon. And for guys like Air Supply, they had been living all over through that part of the globe for a long time and touring there, where they didn't even feel the need to come back to the States at that time.
Wow.
So where we thought, they faded into obscurity and blah, blah, blah. Them motherfuckers was fucking bitches in Spain, Colombia, Portugal. You know what I mean? They was out there living the vida loca, player.
Air Supply.
Air fucking Supply.
You heard it here first.
Air Supply gets down.
Yeah.
Dude. Like,
Yeah.
what?
But there's I know several bands
Air
that
Supply
don't
parties.
Canadian bands that do really well. Like they just can't break the fucking States for whatever reason, and then they do really well. Like there's a band called Billy Talent. You've probably heard of Billy Talent.
Big in Germany.
This band is took us on. I used to tour and stuff like that too. Took us on our first stadium tour and shit like that. We're just opening first to three kind of thing. Super nice guys, and then they just never really nothing happened for them down here. I think they make able to play 300, 400, 500 people, but in Germany, Canada, fucking England, they're playing fucking stadiums.
So they don't care.
They have a full on career.
They didn't even miss a
Just
beat.
go to the markets
And
that
now
work.
they're back here in the States, Air Supply.
yeah?
I follow them on Facebook, and they're fucking
that's
still
cool.
doing their thing.
Yeah.
But there was a time period, you know how America is, they're really picky and finicky, and they'll fucking kick side to the side your movement of what you did and act like you didn't
Totally.
Yeah.
weren't impactful as fuck, and then they move on to the next shit, and then
Yeah.
10 years go by, and you turn into a classic, and they're
Yeah.
right back on you like, yeah, man, I fucking always loved your shit.
Yeah.
But
They're back in the day. Exactly.
But where were you the last 10 fucking years when I needed $20?
Exactly, man.
You know what I mean?
God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That happens.
It's so true though that
Trends
happens all
come
the
full
time.
circle, man.
Yeah.
Musical styles.
Oh, and then people say they were always on board and they weren't always on. You see that fucking.
I'll take a bullet for you. Shit goes
Totally.
down, they're the first ones running.
a little bit different than my examples in my head.
Well, no, I mean, when you come from where I come from
For
in
sure.
Southgate, it's the hood. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in there, you got little smooth, slick talking motherfuckers. Man, I got your back all fucking day, motherfucker. I got your back. It's blah blah. You know that type of shit. And then when some shit does go down, or the trends change, they the first one abandoning the shit.
Right.
Really?
You know?
Yeah.
And it happens.
You guys must have seen some wild shit in Southgate, like a lot of.
Well, I mean, it's the same as any other hood. You got some shit, you got some bullshit, you got some good shit, you got some good people, you got some fucked up people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it wasn't as bad as Watts, Compton,
Right.
Linwood, because the police in Southgate was really like hardcore. You know, and there was we had our share of shootings and whatnot, but it wasn't like broad daylight,
Open war, something
Compton
like it was.
status.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you know. But
Yeah.
you know, we had our shit. You know, we weren't far from Watts. You know, we're the next city over. We're the Watts riots of the 1960s.
60s, yeah.
So
And you guys, I guess you said 64. You moved? No, you were born in 67. 7.
Yeah.
So you would have just you missed the Watts. You missed all the riots, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
even. And if it happened, I wouldn't have known because I didn't know no English.
Right.
I
Right,
didn't, you
yeah.
know.
When you started rapping in Spanish, what was your lyrical inspiration for the content itself? What were you rapping about?
Just talking about how bad ass of a motherfucker I was.
Nice.
Really, the first song I ever wrote professionally was called Mas Pingón. And that's, if you're Mexican, you know
Yeah.
that Mas Chingón is the
Yeah.
parody of that if you're Mexico or Cuba. So it's just, just braggadocious shit.
Just good rhymes.
Yeah, just like how hip hop started. I got a water bed and color TV so I can see the Knicks play basketball. That's what it was about. You know what I mean? And, I'm no different.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's cool. That's super interesting. Did you ever have any problems like with cannabis overseas or anything like that?
No. Actually, only in the state of Arizona.
Really?
It's a tough one.
We were out there doing some stuff. We were playing a houseboat. Myself, Be Real, Son Doobie,
Nice.
DJ Lethal, Limp Bizkit.
Oh, wow.
And a couple other of us. I forget who was all there. Fred Wreck might have been there. And lo and behold, at that time I wasn't smoking. And we had a double-decker boat. People were coming on board and they were going to see our show. Be Real's up top. The rest of us, for some reason, were downstairs smoking. And I wasn't smoking at that time period. And man, we were parked. We made a mistake. They parked the boat on the Arizona side instead of the California side. If you know that layout of Lake Havasu.
Right.
So police bum rushed the boat from the back end from the land, and they came on boats and rushed the boat on 4 or 5 boats from the front. And then they arrested all of us except Be Real, because he was up top where there was no smoking going on, right? So they take us all to jail. And if you ever been to Arizona, you see the video judge over the weekend.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Right? So they put us all in this big paddy wagon, all of us. And it's such a cool way to go to jail. If you're going to go to jail, you want to go to jail with Limp Bizkit, Cypress Hill. You know what I mean? Yes. Funk Dubious, Mellow Man Ace. You just want to go to jail like that because all each other. So they put us all in one holding tank. And it's all of us, so nobody was gonna trip from Arizona.
Yeah,
it's got all these LA boys in there ready to mash the party up, right? So at one point, there was so many of us in there that they just said, "Look, this is some inhumane shit." So they put us out in the yard, and during the Arizona summer, and you know how hot that could be, and you have creepy crawlers, coming from out of the desert, and shit biting you in the ass and shit like that. But we had a great time because nobody was tripping. It was 16 of us. Dang, 16 of and we're just chilling, telling rap stories and, remember the time Run DMC came to fucking blah, blah, blah. What? And we were just chilling. And then on Saturday, we got popped on a Friday. Saturday, we got to see the video judge. Let us out the next day. And we were out back to partying. But, we missed our concert on the boat. We missed our show on the boat.
No, did they charge us? Any charges laid?
We got charged with a bunch of shit because they had found some black tar heroin. Ooh. But one of our guys said, no, it's not black tar heroin. It's mine. He owned up to it. It was just some hash.
Right.
It was just some hash. And I won't say who that was. I'm not going to throw his shit out.
Yeah.
But I remember Lethal was on his way to Vegas after that trip. So he had a pocket full of like 16 grand in his pocket, and they took that, confiscated it, never gave it back.
Fuck.
And then we got calls later on when we were back home that the judge had dropped the charges on everybody, and we never had to go back.
He's like, man, I'll keep the charges. Give me my money back.
That's what he tried to get his money back. He did try to get his money back. Wow. And if you talk to him nowadays, he's like, bro, I never got my shit. Really? Yeah, if you see Lethal, ask him, hey, man, Mellow said this, blah, blah, blah. You tell you, I still haven't got it.
No way.
Wow.
Yeah, because I just did a show with him with House of Pain last year. And he told me then that he still hadn't gotten it.
Wow. So, what do you got next? We've taken up a ton of your time. What do you got? What's coming up next for you? You got your shows coming up next. You got any?
Dub tour, right?
The dub tour. I'll be in Chicago next in June. Then we go back on the dub tour. This Chicago date is not part of that, and then neither is San Antonio. It's just more like a spot date. So I'll be in all those places. And what's really got me excited, is just being able to bring the gospel of Mellow Man Ace to town. I'm not one of them dudes that has a lot. Like, I'm not doing a movie project or anything like that. That's not what I'm about. It's not my deal. I don't think enough people would care. However, I do have a book that's about 85% done.
Wow.
And I'm looking forward to to the day that I actually finish the book.
Wow, that'll be a fucking banger.
That's cool. And that's just about your life?
Yeah. The life of what it was like to start Spanish rap and bilingual rap.
That is so
hip hop
cool.
and my journey, in that.
You have to promise me that you're going to voice the fucking audiobooks yourself, because I'm hooked on audiobooks.
Yeah, I am. Because, we have a studio at home, so I'll just be able to do it like that and then track it all out. And
That's amazing.
fuck, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And thanks for inspiring so many people.
Thank you, brother. You're welcome.
It's incredible, man.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
for changing everything, bro.
You're welcome.
No
doubt.
because without you doing that, you think about how hip hop carries over into all popular culture. There might be a billboard in Spanish for a fucking burrito, but it wouldn't have been in Spanish if people like you didn't make it possible for all of us to be who we are.
Thank you, brother.
Break
appreciate
down doors.
that.
So.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mellow Man Ace. Thanks for telling us how you got out of the weeds, man. Fuck, what a trip.
Fuck. That was incredible. Right on. Thank you so much, dude.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much. That was
That was
super
a good
fun.
interview. Really good interview.
Awesome. Thank you. I was still pressing record.
blown away,
I was
dude.
still pressing. I hadn't pressed stop. We got a compliment from Mellow Man Ace.
This
on a good
episode
interview.
was presented by Pop Guide and WikiLeaf. Please follow ITW on Twitter and Instagram at Get Into the Weeds. You can follow Ben Rispin at Ben Rispin. You can follow Ephraim Martinez Schulz at F by Stereo. And me, Bubba Nicholson at Bubba Nicholson. ITW's theme music was written by Jacob Bergsma of My Son the Hurricane. Visit them at www.msthofficial.com. Special thanks to our friends at Puff Digital, Program Skate and Sound, and the Slide Bar in Fullerton, Orange County. Sound engineering provided by Roman Marconi at Halo Studios Hamilton. ITW was created by Ben Rispin and is produced by Master Volume.